15 tips on selecting and setting up a campsite. Tip number 1. Is there a water source nearby? You don't want to be camping a mile or two away from your water. This is because you're going to need water for hydration, cooking, and cleaning. Tip number 2. Be mindful of your elevation. If you set up camp way up at the top of a mountain, you're going to probably be a lot cooler than if you were at a lower elevation. And you have to deal with winds. At the same time, if you're down in a canyon, it's going to be a lot cooler, especially at night, to be at the bottom of a canyon than to be a little higher up. So you have to be mindful of your elevation. It's also very important not to camp right next to a water source because it's typically a lot cooler. So somewhere between the lowest point and the highest point is a good middle ground to set up camp. Another good reason why you should not set up camp next to a water source is because typically there's a lot more bugs that live around a pond, a lake, or a stream. Tip number 3. Select a piece of ground to camp on that is flat and has the ability to move water away from your shelter. Tip number 4. Always look up before you set up your camp. Make sure there's not any overhanging limbs that could break off during a storm. Tip number 5. If it's possible, try to position your location for your camp next to a windbreak. A windbreak can reduce the amount of coolness impacting your shelter, keeping you warmer at night, and allowing you to control your campfire with more ease. Tip number 6. Gather and or chop your firewood before you make your fire. Tip number 7. Construct your shelter before you gather your firewood, just in case of an unexpected weather system. Tip number 8. Always face the entrance of your shelter in the opposite direction than the wind. Tip number 9. If possible, elevate yourself off the ground when you sleep using a hammock or another type of raised bed configuration. If those are not possible, then using some type of barrier between yourself and the ground will keep you warmer at night. Tip number 10. Try to always carry a repair kit to make repairs to your tarp, tent, and other gear, including your clothing and your backpack. This could be as simple as glue, tape, pre-made patches, cording, and any other type of materials that would be helpful to get through a type of situation where you have damaged or torn gear. Tip number 11. If you're camping for a prolonged period of time, does the area that you're camping or considering to camp at have the ability to feed you? Are there fish? Are there small game? Could you hunt? Could you trap? Tip number 12. Allow a minimum of 2 to 4 hours before sunset to set up camp. The more experienced you are, the least amount of time you will need. But even experienced people typically need around 2 hours to make camp at a comfortable pace. Tip number 13. It is smart and heavily advised to wear safety glasses and work gloves when you're cutting wood and doing things such as building your shelter. Tip number 14. Carry with you at least several garbage bags. They're helpful for not only keeping wet clothes separate from your dry clothes, but keeping your litter, your garbage from floating around the campsite and possibly being left there in the woods. Tip number 15. Store your hot sauces and other liquids in eyedroppers for your cooking, and your dry seasonings in sealed straws. Thanks again for coming along and watching the video. If you liked the video, let me know in the comment section and hitting the like button. As always, I hope everyone's well, and you guys take care.